Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Steven Melendez, and I'm going to be bringing you the latest and greatest in soccer news from around the world. Welcome back, everyone, to your favorite soccer podcast. I'm Steven Melendez. I'm just excited to be back with you guys, giving you guys some more soccer news. We got the international break coming up, so you know I got a lot of that coming at you. I'm going to be continuing the Champions League talk and, continuing my all-time top 10s. I'm just glad to be back here and talking with you guys. So let's just get right into what today's show is going to be all about. In the first part of the show, I'm going to be talking about the World Cup qualifiers in the CONMEBOL. So, we're going to get some Brazil in there. We're going to talk about some Colombia. And my favorite international team, Peru. You'll find out why soon. And then, of course, in the second part of the show, we're going to be talking about the Champions League group stage once again. This time I'll be talking about groups E and F. And then in the third part of the show, I'm going to be recapping some of the games from the UEFA Nations League. Because we got matches 3 and 4 going on now. And, just want to talk about how some of the teams are looking. And then the last part of the show, we're going to be continuing the all-time list, going with the fullbacks, top 10 fullbacks of all time. Really excited to get into all of this stuff with you guys today, and let's get right into it with the FIFA World Cup qualifiers of the CONMEBOL. And the first game I wanted to get into is Paraguay versus Peru. Now, I told you guys that Peru is my favorite international team, aside from the United States, of course. I always got to rep my country. And that is because my girlfriend is Peruvian. And ever since I started dating her, me and her would watch Peru games now and then. We even went to one here in Miami against Chile. And I just love the way Peru play. I mean, they're extremely hardworking, and that's what I always like that in teams when they're always when they try their hardest on the defensive end and always put their maximum effort into every game. Those are the teams that I like the most, and that is Peru in a nutshell. So let's just get right into this game, and it ended in a 2-2 draw, and it was pretty back and forth. You had Paraguay playing well, Peru were doing well, but it was the second half that really exploded. You got 4 goals, all 4 goals total in the second half, but both teams were putting pressure on goal. They just couldn't get that good final ball in the first half. I definitely felt like Paraguay were the more effective team. I mean, they did have 2 shots on target of their 4 shots, while Peru had none. And they were passing it a bit better, just having some more team play over Peru. But the effort, like I said, was definitely there for both sides. But yeah, the goals would eventually start pouring in throughout the second half. With surprisingly Peru being the first one to score. You would expect especially the way that the game was, forming out, that you would expect Paraguay to be the first to break through. But it was Peru getting on the board first with a very strong volley from Andre Carrillo off a terrible Paraguay clearance that pretty much ended right in his path. But after that, some terrible marking from Peru, something I'm not used to seeing from them. Left Angel Romero wide open inside the box. And he had enough time to literally give a touch on the ball and then control it and score. Like, he could have had a barbecue there and still no one would have gotten there. It was very poor effort from Peru, which I'm used to seeing them all, on top of pretty much anything that goes on the defensive end. But that just was not the case on that goal. And same thing for the other goal, as Romero was left unmarked once again in the 81st minute at the back post, and he slotted past Goalless for the lead. And it sucked. This goal really hurt Peru. I mean, obviously they still ended up coming back. I'll talk about that goal very soon. But before this goal from Paraguay, Peru had a lot of chances. I mean, they kept the pressure up and were getting a lot of opportunities. Even Farfán, he, one of their best players, he had a pretty open opportunity. I mean, it was a tough angle, but he hit the post on it. He was able to get past the goalkeeper and could not finish it. It was a very tough, thing to see, especially with Paraguay getting the lead shortly after that. However, like I've said already, Peru never quit. They continued to push, and they chipped away at that Paraguay defense and got that equalizer. And it was another spectacular goal from Carrillo. This time, he kind of made it all happen. He was being marked in the box, but he found a way to get away from that Paraguay defender and get a diving header on the ball. I mean, it was a beautiful cross from Miguel Trauco. Don't know if I'm saying his name right, but the diving header was pretty much, the masterpiece of this goal. And Carrillo put it into the back of the net in the 85th minute and gave his team the draw. A much needed draw, especially with, Paraguay being one of the weaker teams that they would be facing in these qualifiers, so they needed to get these points. I definitely give my man of the match to Andre Carrillo, because his goals were a lot better than what Angel Romeo did for Paraguay, even though, he also got a brace. I just feel like what Carrillo did in both of his goals were just much more spectacular than what Romeo did. But aside from that, he also completed 81% of his passes, had 2 successful dribbles, and won 7 of 14 duels. So he had an overall solid game. Next, we have Uruguay versus Chile. This is the game I was actually looking forward to the most, because it's a very even matchup between these two teams. Peru and Paraguay are even, in my opinion, even though I feel like Peru is a little bit better, but they're not as high quality sides. You don't have as many big time names. With Uruguay, you got Luis Suarez. On Chile's side, you got Alexis Sanchez, Arturo Vidal. You got a lot of really good players on both sides. So this was going to be, and they play very tough. So this was going to be a hard-fought, game, whichever side it went to. And to start this match, Uruguay really were dominating this game. And from literally right off the bat, you can tell this game was going to be extremely physical, with both teams taking shots at the other early on. I was surprised there were no yellows tossed. I mean, it was the beginning of the game, so they got to keep those down a little bit to start the game. But on top of that, we were rewarded with some solid play from both sides. I mean, Uruguay were definitely, like I said, the more effective team in the first half, getting into that Chile final third much more often. But Chile were hanging on strong, and they had a lot of solid defensive efforts. Obviously it helps to have a defensive midfielder like Vidal back there, to really help out. And it really made a big difference in this game, although they, unfortunately lost this game, which I didn't even say. The final score was 2-1 in favor of Uruguay. I usually say that in the beginning of, when I'm talking about these games. However, despite those strong efforts on defense from Chile in that first half, they did unfortunately get an inadvertent handball from Sebastian Vegas, one of their central defenders, and it awarded Uruguay a penalty. When I first saw it, I didn't really think it was going to be rewarded a penalty. But the thing is, the way that they changed the rules, which even if it isn't intentional, if it hits the hand and it's away from the body, it's a penalty, and that's certainly what happened here. And I feel like it was a deserving penalty. And of course, you get Luis Suarez taking the penalty, and he makes it look so easy. Making the goalkeeper Gabriel Arias going the opposite way and just scoring past them. We would go into the half with Uruguay up 1 and looking like the better team overall in these first 45 minutes, but Chile would have something to say about that. They would get far more opportunities in Uruguay's final third in the second half, and it even looked like they had drawn a penalty, but it was never called. I'm not sure why. Maybe they felt like the Chile attacker. I don't remember which player it was, but maybe they think that he flopped and kind of tried selling the contact. But I thought there was enough there to get a penalty. But regardless, they would get rewarded with a very solid team goal that was finished off by Alexis Sanchez. Vargas flipped a nice pass to Aranguiz, who controlled it perfectly with his chest to get into position to deliver a solid assist to Sanchez, and he would do the rest from there. It was honestly some poor defense from Uruguay, who allowed all that space for Aranguiz as he was coming into the final third. But in the end, you gotta tip your hat off to Chile, who just pulled off some very solid passes there to get a good goal, and a well-deserved goal. And honestly, at this point, it kind of felt like it was Chile's game to win, as they were just playing a lot better in the second half. Uruguay, weren't backing down by any means, but it definitely felt like Chile had much of the momentum in this game. And in soccer, that's usually everything. However, that was not the case in this game, as with just a minute left in extra time, the late substitute, Maximiliano Gonzalez, would control a very, I feel like it was poor. I mean, even though it's not really easy to get it really out, but the clearance from Chile was not strong. It was literally just outside the box. Maximiliano was able to control it and launch it into the bottom right corner to score in literally the 93rd minute. Heartbreaking loss for Chile, as honestly, I feel like they probably deserved at least a draw here, because even for the man of the match, I have it as Arturo Vidal. This is probably like the second time I have the losing team have the man of the match here, and he played an amazing game. He completed 89% of his 73 passes, 2 of 2 tackles, 4 of 6 aerials, with 4 clearances, 5 interceptions, 7 recoveries, and a successful dribble. So he was pretty much doing it all for Chile, and was a big part of why they were able to, halt Uruguay's offense for most of this game. Next, we're going to get into kind of a disappointing match here, as you had Argentina versus Ecuador, and Argentina for so long, they're obviously going to be considered one of the best because they have Leonel Messi, and they also have some solid players along that team with like Lautaro Martinez. You have Lucas Ocampos, Otamendi. You have a lot of great players on this team. However, it just doesn't feel like they play as a team. And that's always an issue in international football. And this game kind of felt much of the same. You would expect Argentina to absolutely, destroy Ecuador here, because they're definitely a shell of their former self. And they just didn't do that. Ultimately, they did end up winning this game and getting the 3 points, which is, all you really need. But in the long-term view of this team still has a lot of issues to figure out. And despite Ecuador being extremely outmatched in terms of quality, I was very impressed with how they pressed up on Argentina and just made it very difficult for them to get to the spots that they wanted. Argentina were forced to play long balls instead of that link-up play that falls into Messi's play style, and it kind of like disrupted their game. They only got 1 goal. And for a team like Argentina against Ecuador, that's just not going to get it done. That's just not right. If you put this Argentina team against Brazil, and they're gonna get washed. Like it won't even be fair. But Lionel Messi did get that goal. It was in the 13th minute. It was a penalty, and a lot of that was due to Lucas Ocampos, who was able to draw that foul. He got some space in the box, and at first, when I saw it, I was like, no, there's no way that's a penalty. But in fact, the Ecuador defender, I think it was actually Estupinian, he went and slid, which, in that situation, he kind of had good positioning, didn't really need to slide, but he didn't even get any of the ball. Lucas Ocampos played his body extremely well and drew the foul, and it was certainly a foul in that situation. Of course, you put Lionel Messi in the penalty box, and he's going to get you a goal more often than not, and that's exactly what happened. Argentina got their goal, got into the lead, and did what they had to do. The problem that Argentina has always had, though, was finding another attacking player that played well alongside Messi. They've had very strong players throughout this lineup. You've had Icardi. You've had Di Maria, who, I mean, I was surprised that Di Maria didn't get the call-up. I'm sure he was too. I remember seeing the reports that he was extremely mad about that. But I feel like they finally found that person in Lucas Ocampos, who is easily playing the best soccer of his career. He even gets a shot on target later in the game that was saved perfectly by Alexander Dominguez, the goalkeeper for Ecuador. And he played a very solid game. Not, man of the match type of game, but, I just feel like the way he plays, it works off perfectly with Lionel Messi, and they're going to need to play off of that. But in my opinion, what I feel was the most important, the best thing about this game for Argentina was that back line. They allowed just 4 shots, 0 on target from Ecuador. I know that it's not that Ecuador has an amazing offense and wow, that's crazy, but it's just the fact of how they were able to actually, sustain that for the entire game and literally give the goalkeeper no work. He didn't have to do anything. And you have Tagliafico there, Otamendi, and on the left side, Montiel, I believe was his name, the left back, or right back, I think. Very strong game from all of them, and I feel like that is going to need to get even better in order to really challenge some of these top international teams. But overall, I give them a lot of credit. But the man of the match, once again, of course, is none other than Lionel Messi. I mean, aside from the penalty goal that he got, he completed 85% of his 48 passes, had an interception, 2 successful dribbles, was 2 of 2 on tackles and 5 of 11 on duels. So, I mean, Messi, once again, always does what he needs to do in the team. He just needs some help around him. And I feel like it's starting to form, but they just need more time to play together. Next, we got Brazil versus Bolivia. And, I mean, this is easily the most one-sided matchup you will find in the CONMEBOL. Bolivia enters this game ranked at 75, while Brazil enters as the 3rd best country in the world. And this game played out just like that. They lost 5-0, and I mean, it never looked like Brazil was in any trouble here, because right off the bat, I mean, they were just all over Bolivia and were just living in their half. I mean, they, of course, had their full complement of players, Neymar, Casemiro, Marquinhos, Coutinho, to just name a few. Obviously, they got way more than that, but, just then, they had everybody. So it's not like they were, taking it easy. They were going into this full force, trying to get these 3 points and absolutely murder Bolivia in this game, and that's exactly what they did. They had 20 shots to Bolivia's 3. Bolivia did get a shot on target, but that was as good as it would get for them. I mean, they couldn't really do anything other than that. And honestly, I felt bad for Bolivia's backline and the goalkeeper, as they couldn't even get a breather. Brazil were just continuously attacking them and not letting them collect themselves. But this was just an all-around great performance from Brazil. Their defense was suffocating. Thiago Silva and Marquinhos in that backline were just great. And then their 2 fullbacks, I believe Danilo and Lodi were great, both in attack and defense, getting back. Both of those fullbacks got an assist in this game, so they were playing extremely well and only allowed, like I said, 3 shots. Their attack was dynamic as well. Of course, it starts always with Neymar, as he was creating everything and finding players open and making just unbelievably magical runs. But then you also had the target man, Firmino, who was just always seems to be in that right spot to score 2 easy goals for him. I mean, for a striker of his quality, those goals were just cake. But surprisingly, Brazil were only up by 2 at the half, and it felt like it could have been more. But that's where I give the credit to the Bolivian goalkeeper, Lampe, who made some incredible saves to keep this game closer than it should have been for just a bit longer. But of course, the floodgates opened in the second half. Firmino got an early second half goal. They got an own goal from Bolivia off just their constant pressure, and then Coutinho from Neymar scored a really nice header. So Brazil winning this game 5-0, just easy stuff for them. And of course, the man of the match goes to Neymar, who had 2 assists, and when I saw this stat, I just couldn't believe an unbelievable 18 dribbles. 18 successful dribbles. I mean, a great game in terms of dribbles is like 7, 6, 8. Like, if you have that, I'm already thinking, like, wow, this guy really impacted the game. 18 successful dribbles. This man is in a class of his own there. I mean, even Messi, even though, he's obviously getting older, but he only had 2 in this game, in his game against, Ecuador. So, unbelievable game from Neymar, and he certainly deserves the man of the match, as he does absolutely everything for Brazil. And now the last game, we have Colombia versus Venezuela. And Colombia pretty much, didn't dominate this game, but on the score sheet, they certainly did with a 3-0 victory. And like I said, despite the score looking the way it did, Venezuela actually put up a decent fight against Colombia. But in the end, the quality on Colombia's side just ended up winning out. But I feel like Venezuela has a solid chance of qualifying for the World Cup this season. After what I saw in their first match, Venezuela were putting some early pressure on Colombia, but it did result in some early fouls, and they even got a red card in just the 9th minute of this game, and that was pretty much the downfall for them from there, because, when you don't have as much quality, you need to be playing as a complete team, and when they were down a man against the type of squad that Colombia has, it kind of just spelled the game right there. I do like their defensive midfielders and their Yangel Herrera, the man who's the product from Man City. I feel like he's really good, but it's kind of like tough to really make up for losing a man, especially that early on in the game. You're going to be expending so much energy, and it would just be extremely hard. But Venezuela still managed to put some pressure. I mean, that first half was kind of fell apart on them, because to just throughout the middle of the game just try to figure out how to make up for that missing man is difficult, and they gave up 3 goals before the end of the half. But clearly they made the right adjustments in the second half and didn't give up a goal. Colombia did let off the gas pedal just a bit, but a lot of that had to do with the execution in terms of pressure that Venezuela had on Colombia. They did get some great goals from Luis Muriel and Zapata, especially that one right before the end of the half where Muriel just did a counterattack all on his own, got by the Venezuela defender with ease, and just scored a really nice goal. So I will definitely give him props on that one. He even gets the man of the match for me in this game, because he did have 2 goals and was just, did a little bit of everything for Colombia in this game. But what I take away from this game more is that, Venezuela, despite being a man down, still find a way to impact this game and still play relatively well. They even had more shots than Colombia, even though they had only 3 shots on target to Colombia's 6. Venezuela still came through and played a very good game. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around, because when I come back, I'm going to be previewing Groups E and F of the Champions League. You're not going to want to miss that.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football, from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back, everyone. If you missed the last segment, we talked about the CONMEBOL World Cup Qualifiers, and now we're going to be talking about the best competition in soccer, the Champions League. I've been doing the group stages for a few episodes now, and I'm just so excited to, just continue to talk about this amazing competition. And, just because we're getting so close to the actual games, I'm just so excited. This is going to be a really fun competition, like it always is. And in this segment, we're going to be talking about groups E and F. So let's just get right into it, starting with Group E, of course, where it has Chelsea, Sevilla, Stade Rennes, and Krasnodar. Now, this is pretty much, I believe, like a 2-team race for, who gets the top spot in this group, because, Rennes and Krasnodar, they have some, Rennes has a lot of youth, same thing with Krasnodar, even though they still rely on a lot of veterans, but in terms of quality, it just takes a big-time drop with those two teams, so I feel like Chelsea and Sevilla really got a lucky draw here. But let's just get right into these teams, starting with, of course, Chelsea. They've won the Champions League before in 2012 when Didier Drogba got that, I'm sure you guys remember, one of the most legendary goals in Champions League history against Bayern, and then, of course, ultimately won in penalties. And then they all, more recently, they've won 2 Europa League titles since then. So, obviously now with all these new signings that they got with like Thiago Silva, Timo Werner, Hakim Ziyech, Kai Havertz. They're obviously gearing up to being on the top of the European world once again. It's obviously going to take some time because, especially the way they're looking in the Premier League, they're not at the top of their game just yet, but that was expected. Whenever you bring in a lot of talent at one time like that, it's not going to just click and be, at the top of its game right away. However, along with the already established talent of Mason Mount, Christian Pulisic, N'Golo Kante, they certainly need to work out that goalkeeping situation. However, that the new signing of Eduardo Mendy for sure will level it out a bit, because, to have Kepa there, even though he's the most expensive goalkeeper in the world, he obviously has not lived up to those expectations. And, they definitely needed to have some sort of stability there. And it looks now with Mendy in that spot, they can. Of course, he still needs to prove it in the big stage, and we will certainly see that this season. But regardless of, whether they need to put the everything together, I still feel like Chelsea have the most talent, and honestly the better overall side in this group, and I see them finishing first and getting a nice position in the knockout rounds. Next we have Sevilla. They obviously won the Europa League last season and have a record 6 times. I said that weird, but you know what I mean. That they've won the Europa League a record 6 times, and I feel like that experience, because they still have a lot of guys from that group. Diego Carlos, you got Lucas Ocampos, Luke De Jong, Jules Koundé, a lot of guys who really played a huge part in that Europa League title are still on this team. I know they did lose some big time players, and it'll certainly hurt, but they did bring in Ivan Rakitic, who brings in a whole slew of experience and skill to that midfield, and I feel like he'll definitely help this team get past this group. I do see them finishing second, like I said, but when I was first talking about this group, I feel like Chelsea and Sevilla, it'll be kind of a race for them. Sevilla could technically fight for that number 1 spot. They would take some big time performances from Ocampos and Rakitic, of course De Jong, who's coming into his own as well, and the young French defender Koundé that I just talked about. But I still think that they're still a piece away from really challenging the top of this Champions League, especially with all the quality that Chelsea has brought into their squad. I just don't see a way that that Sevilla can really, get enough points to win. Of course, if Chelsea falls apart, that opens up a big time opportunity for Sevilla to get that number 1 spot in this group. But I just don't see that happening, and I see them finishing second in the end. Now, next we have Stade Rennes, and this team has a lot of potential, But like I said, with a lot of the youth, they do have one of the most, best up and coming young players in Eduardo Camavinga here. He just recently played for France. He had his debut cap for France and actually scored in that game. So he's got a lot of potential, and he's going to be a big time player in football and soccer. But right now, he's still just 17 years old, turning 18 soon. But he's like a very, very young player, and he's obviously going to be growing a lot during these competitions. This is going to be huge for him. But Rennes have just had such minimal success. Even in the Europa League, they made it to the round of 16 once. This is actually their first time making it to the Champions League since, I believe, back in the 60s. I talked about this once in a previous episode that this is their first time making it since the 60s. So they obviously, as a group are new to this, and as an organization are new to this. But they do have some solid veterans as well, with Steven Nzonzi coming here on loan from Roma. They do have to replace Edouard Mendy here with Romain Salim. He is 36 years old, so he has a lot of experience, but not in this big stage. So if there's any group that's going to, challenge for that second spot, it would be Rennes here. And they also have Sergio Gurasi, who's going to be their top goal scorer in the group. In my opinion, I just don't see them having enough quality and getting enough wins. Of course, if Camavinga shows that because as a defensive midfielder that can really do it all, he's in a very influential spot. So if he obviously steps up and becomes, comes into his own and it shows that he really is one of the best in the world, then yeah, Rennes have a chance. But again, just one player isn't going to get you into that spot, and so I see them finishing third and eventually going into the Europa League knockout rounds. So next we have Krasnodar, and this is the first time they make it into the Champions League, and they have a few top players in Rami Cabella, Marcus Berge, Alexander Martinovic. A lot of those veterans that they're going to be relying on. From their midfield to their attack and defense. But then they also are relying on some youth in Shapi Suleimanov and Matvey Safanov. I'm trying to say those names as, best as possible. It's just not that easy. But, yeah, they're going to be relying on a lot of that youth, along with that veteran, leadership. But I just don't think it's going to be enough in order to really challenge either Sevilla or Chelsea. Of course, anybody can surprise. It's the Champions League, but that's why you have 6 matches. 2 matches against each team, and it'll really expose a lot of the weaknesses of each team, and I feel like that's going to happen here with Krasnodar. It's great experience for the club, a great opportunity for them, for the organization, but all in all, I just don't see them stepping up to the challenge and really, shocking the world here. So I see them finishing 4th. Of course, they can maybe challenge Rennes for that 3rd spot. I just feel like Rennes just have, more quality than them and have looked really good so far this season that it's just not going to be, I feel like they're going to end up finishing 4th and last place in this group. That's going to finish it up for Group E. Now let's move on to Group F, where we have I feel like a much more competitive group with Borussia Dortmund, Lazio, Zenit St. Petersburg, and Club Brugge. Now, you obviously have a lot of young talent in Borussia Dortmund. Lazio have their offensive juggernaut, and Zenit, I feel like have a lot of good quality in there as well. Club Brugge is the only team that I'm kind of not sure about. I feel like they might not be able to handle all the talent that all the other 3 clubs are going to be able to send their way. But let's find out and talk about them now. Starting with, of course, Borussia Dortmund, who last won the Champions League against Bayern Munich in 2012-2013. Obviously, that one of the best finals ever when, they made it there. To be able to go up against Bayern Munich, they didn't actually win it. My apologies. I don't know why I just said that. They obviously lost, but Bayern Munich, it was just a big-time win for Bayern Munich. Borussia Dortmund, even to be able to get to that spot, was huge. And they've had some relative success since then. But they just have not been able to get to the big stage again. And have just, what I feel with Borussia Dortmund, they just don't have that X factor that really gets them over the top. I mean, they've always had a lot of good quality, and especially in young players. But in terms of having that one single guy, it just felt like they never really had him. Now I feel like they certainly do, even though they are still very young. I feel like Jadon Sancho and Erling Haaland are the exact type of players that they need to really get over the hump. I mean, last year, Erling Haaland showed that the Champions League was not too much for him. Of course, they ended up eventually losing to PSG in the second leg of that round of 16 matchup, but they looked very strong, and I feel like this season, another year of experience under their belt, those two guys are really going to step up and be big-time players for Borussia Dortmund. Of course, they still got their slew of vets in Mats Hummels, who's going to man that back line and be a huge success for them, along with Emre Can, Marco Reus, and Axel Witsel. All those guys are going to play big-time parts in this team's success, especially with having those guys are extremely important, especially when you have other young players that play a huge role in this team, like Jude Bellingham and Giovanni Reina, who, they're going to need in order to really have a very dynamic attack. And in Champions League football, you need to have that. You need to have a very solid attack and a dynamic one that can really score goals on a regular basis. But of course, along with that, you need your veterans that'll get you through the mud and really settle things down for your team. And I feel that's what guys like Marco Reus, Axel Witsel, and Mats Hummels will do for this team. And of course, Emre Can, I can't forget about him. He's always been a very solid player for this team. But you just got to remember, Marco Reus did not play last season because of his injuries. So getting him back is huge for them, and he's going to play a big-time part for them in this Champions League. And with that, I feel like they're going to finish first. I just see no way Lazio do enough, because I just don't like Lazio's defense. Like, offensively, they can keep up with Borussia Dortmund, but offensively, I don't feel like they have anybody that can keep up with Sancho or Haaland. So I feel like they're going to finish first in this group, no doubt, and move on to the knockout rounds. Next, we got Lazio, and they actually won the last iteration of the UEFA Cup Winners' Cup in 1998-99 before it was changed to the Europa League. And they had made it to the knockout rounds once in their history, but they were knocked out in the quarterfinals by Valencia. So they haven't had a lot of success in European soccer. But I feel like if there's any team that can finally break through that cold stretch, it's this one. I mean, they have, even though last season in the Europa League they were an absolute mess and didn't even get out of the group stage of the Europa League, which is that's just a huge time failure for a big club like this who had a big time season in Serie A. But you're talking about the Golden Boot winner in Ciro Immobile. You have one of the best center attacking midfielders in Luis Alberto to go along with Sergej Milinkovic-Savic. My bad on that name, but who's another really, really good midfielder in the world. And then, of course, you got Pepe Reina, who's, the goalkeeper that has so much experience back there. And then they did get Andreas Pereira on loan from Man U, who was an absolute mess over there for the Red Devils, but could definitely play a big part for Lazio in this game, throughout their season. Like I said, I feel like offensively this team is one of the best. I feel like they are very similar to what Atalanta were showing last season, and I feel like they can make that kind of run as well. But I don't see them beating Borussia Dortmund, at all in this group. I feel maybe they get a draw, but then I feel like they lose, one of the other games, and ultimately finish second because they take care of the teams below them. But next, we got Club Brugge, and they had most of their success in the Champions League back in the 70s. They did make the final in 1978, where they lost to Liverpool, and they made the quarterfinal in 77. So they had a lot of their success back then, but they have not made it out of the group stage since. So there's obviously, not a lot of good success, at least lately in their history. They do have some solid players that will help out. I mean, of course, everyone knows Simon Mignolet, who, played a lot in Liverpool and has a lot of, relative success, but a lot of experience in a top flight league like that. So he's certainly going to be, essential to Club Brugge, at least trying to get that third spot in this group. You have Hans Van Aken and Crepin Diatta, two guys who have been, extremely important to their attack this year. And then, of course, I can't forget Ruud Vormer, who also can score. And I feel like that's the main strength of this team, being able to score buckets, being able to score goals and just have a very dynamic attack. That's kind of like the... what am I trying to say? The trend of this group. It has a lot of attack, so I feel like it's going to have the most exciting games to watch. However, the defense in this group, I feel, is extremely weak, and I don't feel like it's going to be good enough to keep up with any of the teams that are left in this group. So I feel like they actually finish last here. They're going to go fourth and miss out on that Europa League spot. Next, and definitely not last, no. Man, what's going on here? Last, but certainly not least, we got Zenit St. Petersburg, and they've won the Europa League once back in 2008. They have made it to the knockout rounds a few times in the Champions League, but haven't advanced any further than the round of 16. So obviously, very, minimal success in the Champions League. But of course, for, a club like this out of Russia, I mean, you don't really expect too much from them. However, I feel like this season they have some, really good veterans that can certainly give them a chance to get one of those top two spots. You have the winger Malcolm, who, for a long time was one of the most highly touted transfer targets in the world when he was coming out of Bordeaux, went to Barcelona, kind of failed there. And now he's in Zenit and has been a big-time part of this club. And I feel like he certainly gives you that wow factor that you need to, really, make an impact in Champions League football. And then, of course, you have the center forward, Artem Zuba, who is their captain and a very calming presence for them at the top of the pitch. And then, of course, you have Dejan Lovren, who came over from Liverpool this last transfer window. Huge-time pickup for them as he gives them, some more... experience and veteran leadership that they certainly need. And then, of course, you can't forget the defensive midfielder Wilmar Barrios, who also plays a big-time part in this club. I just feel like they have a lot more, balance throughout their club. And if Lazio don't show up the way that they did, the way they did in the Europa League, I feel like Zenit can certainly surprise some people and finish second in this group. I would not put it past them because they certainly have the quality. They have the experience. They've been playing well, over the past couple years, and I feel like they can certainly surprise some people here in this group. So do not be surprised if you see Zenit finish second and Lazio are in the Europa League once again. So that's gonna wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around because I'm going to be coming back with you with more international football this time talking about the UEFA Nations League. Stick around.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back, everyone. If you missed the last segment, we went over all the groups E and F of the Champions League. Just talking about where I believe each team is going to finish out in the group. Make sure you guys check that out if you missed it. And now we are going to be talking about the UEFA Nations League that has just started up once again. They're going to start having match days 3 and 4. Today, we're going to have some, big time games, between some of the top countries in the entire world. I'm certainly going to preview those games. But we had some exciting matchups going on yesterday with, Spain versus Switzerland. We had Germany versus Ukraine. Those were the two top games that I saw yesterday, and they certainly didn't disappoint. weren't like the best games you can watch. Obviously, that's going to be all today, and I'll certainly be talking about that in my show on Wednesday. But just want to talk a little bit about those games, and then of course some of the other League B through D games. But I'll go over those quickly, and then of course I'm going to preview those top 2 matchups going on today, and who I believe is going to come out on top. So let's get right into it, talking first about the Spain versus Switzerland matchup that saw Spain coming out on top 1-0. This was a game between two very well-managed sides. Spain does have a bit more quality than Switzerland, but like I was talking about with Peru earlier in this show, I love Switzerland. They just play with so much effort, despite having less quality than a lot of the teams that they go up against. This time they did have their star Xherdan Shaqiri, did not have him in the first 2 matches of this competition. But honestly, he didn't make that much of a difference in this game, as Switzerland still couldn't get much going on the offensive end. They only had 4 shots, 1 on target, while Spain, kind of similar. They had 12 shots, but only had 2 on target. So it wasn't much better on their side, but Spain certainly had control for most of this game. And right off the bat, they were applying pressure on Switzerland and maintaining most of the possession. In the end, they finished the game with 60% possession, and you could feel it. You could feel that Spain was pretty much controlling most of this game. However, Switzerland were very well organized. They dealt with that pressure very well to start the game. They even had some chances at goal early on, but getting that lone shot on target, it actually happened early on in that game. So they certainly dealt with that pressure well. However, a mistake was made, a really bad one, by the usually consistent goalkeeper Jan Sommer, from the Bundesliga. He allowed them to get a clear chance at goal with a poor pass, with Oyarzabal not letting that chance go to waste after his teammate set him up beautifully. Mikel Merino got that assist. It just kind of took the sails out of Switzerland because they were playing very, pretty solid. Obviously, Spain were getting those opportunities in their final third, but for the most part, Switzerland were keeping them from getting any real chances. But then for that kind of mistake to happen from one of their better players in Sommer, it for sure took some, took a little bit out of their sails, but it didn't deter them from still playing a very solid game. Because after that, it kind of felt like Spain couldn't get anything going. They would dominate most of the game, no doubt about it, Spain. So don't think that I'm saying that Switzerland were had the upper hand in any way, because Spain were certainly dominating this game. They just couldn't get any consistency in their final ball. It's the same issues that showed up in the first couple games, even though Spain has certainly, been the better team in this group between Germany, Spain, Switzerland, and Ukraine. But I just feel like, compared to that one game they had against Ukraine where they just absolutely dominated them 4-0, Spain just couldn't get anything going. They couldn't find any consistency. And like I said, it resulted in just 2 shots on target for the entire game. That's terrible. Really, the only positive I can take from this game was how the defense was extremely consistent, specifically Sergio Ramos. Of course, who else? He made some big-time tackles late in this game to keep Switzerland from getting any solid chances at goal. Because if it wasn't for him, they would have for sure had a few and could have possibly drawn, equalized this game. But once again, I mean, the captain just comes through and saves them in this one. But the same thing goes for Switzerland, Switzerland's back line and Sommer, who they played a very solid rest of the game. I mean, Spain didn't score again after they got that honestly lucky error from Sommer. Was something that I guarantee probably won't happen again, especially after he already did. He's gonna play a better game from now on throughout the rest of this competition. But of course, it's all a part of game. It's this soccer. What am I trying to say? Soccer is a game of chances. If once you get them, you have to take advantage of them. And Oyarzabal certainly did that early in this game. I definitely like the way Spain stayed aggressive, but again, it just didn't result in any solid chances. So they certainly need to clean that up. And what you usually expect from guys like Ansu Fati just wasn't there. And I don't even think Ferran Torres played in this game. So, they definitely need to shore up that attack. Defensively, they're very solid, and I don't have any problems to say about that because, I mean, of course, and you take it with a grain of salt because Switzerland isn't the best, but they still look good against Germany. So overall, I liked what I saw from Spain. Defensively, offensively, of course, needs to clear those things up. And, of course, the man of the match has to go to Sergio Ramos. He had 3 tackles in this game, completed completed 1 of 2 aerials, 8 of 11 duels, had 2 clearances, 2 interceptions, 13 recoveries, and completed 93% of his 83 passes. Even had a successful dribble and 4 touches in the box. So he was very active throughout this entire game, and was the biggest reason why Spain are able to go away with this win. Next, we have Germany versus Ukraine, and I was very excited to watch this match specifically because after Ukraine recently lost 7-1 to France in an international friendly, I felt like they were going to come out of this game extremely aggressive and not allow Germany to just get whatever they wanted. But also on the Germany side, I expected them to be at the top of their game as well after an underwhelming start to this competition. And the start of this game, Ukraine were actually getting some action in Germany's half. It just never resulted in any chances, as that defense was just very solid. And of course, ultimately, Neuer was just never going to let anything get past him. But, I like the start of this game from Ukraine. It felt like they were, really into this game, and they didn't want to get showed up like they did in the last, against France and of course against Spain. Like it has not looked good for them to start this competition, even though they did get a win over Switzerland to start the game, and are in a solid position to keep on going. However, they did eventually get scored on because in the 20th minute, and it was all part of Germany's defenders. They each one had or at least 3 of the 4 had a hand in this goal, as Sule, however you say the name, would get a pass to Rudiger, who then found enough space inside the box to literally get a solid rolling ball through the box and literally right into the feet of Matthias Ginter for the first goal of the game. It was a very solid executed goal. I believe it was Serge Gnabry who had a chance to shoot it, but let it go between his legs because he knew he had a player behind him. Very solid play overall from them. But up until this point, it really didn't feel like Germany had their full impact on this game. But for most of the first half, Germany's attack was pretty subpar, to be honest. They just didn't make any consistent chances at goal. So they certainly needed to clear that up heading into halftime, and I believe that they did just that, because in the second half, I feel like there was a completely different team coming into the game. They would get a goal pretty much right after halftime in the 49th minute. They did get lucky, but it was all part of the activity of Germany's attack. The goalkeeper Bouchon just completely flopped this easy cross that was sent in. He should have held on to it. It just popped out of his hands and right into the head of Goretzka, who scored the header. It was very, very bad luck for Ukraine, and I really felt bad for them, and especially the goalkeeper, who up until this point had a very solid game, because the few chances that Germany did come up with in that first half were saved very well by Buffon, and he just couldn't hold on to it, and Goretzka took advantage of it. I mean, that's what you got to do. You're not gonna feel bad for a team that messed that up. So, and at this point, it kind of felt like Germany were going to run away with this, because they started to find a lot more space within the Ukraine defense. Because of course, down 2-0, Ukraine were starting to put more pressure, try to get more activity in the attack, and it was starting to open things up for Germany. And it just felt a matter of time before they tripled their lead. But that just didn't happen because Buffon came up with some incredible saves that probably should have gone in, but he made up for for that mistake that he made. You can tell that this was just his second cap for Ukraine, and he felt terrible. But honestly, you got to feel great for that for him to kind of make up for that mistake that he made, because up until that, because man, that just sucks when you do what you do, and you're able to become a goalkeeper for your club to mess up in that way. And double up the opponent's lead off of your mistake. It just hurts. So he definitely had a really solid game, and allowed Ukraine to stay close. And honestly, it did just that, because Ukraine started to make some solid runs late in this game, and started to get opportunities. Of course, Germany were sticking with them. It wasn't like they were opening it up, because they weren't trying to play up too high, especially with a 2-0 lead. And you know how Joachim Low likes to play. He loves to play passive when he has a lead. And it almost bit him in the butt in this game, because Ukraine started to make, like I said, those solid runs, and eventually got a really open run. And Sule made a really dumb sliding tackle in the box and gave Ukraine a penalty. Malinovsky would eventually would score that penalty and bring it within one. However, that was as close as Ukraine got. Nothing really materialized after that, even though obviously the pressure was on Germany. They handled it, honestly pretty well, and didn't allow Ukraine to get any more opportunities. So with that, Germany do, escape with that 2-1 win and officially go over, I believe they go over Ukraine in the table right now. Next, of course, and I want to say the man of the match goes to Matthias Ginter. He did get that goal at the start of the game, but he also contributed on defense with one tackle, 3 of 5 duels. He did have 129 touches and 7 recoveries, and he completed 90% of his 118 passes. I almost gave this to Joshua Kimmich. I recently saw a video that was saying how they say his name when he was winning the Defensive Player of the Year, and it was like weird. It was like Joshua Kimmich, and so I'm trying to say his name a lot better. But yeah, I almost gave it to him, because he always just seems to be, one of the better players on this team. But I definitely got to give it to Matthias Ginter, because that goal definitely takes him over the top. Now let's talk about some of those, other games that happened yesterday that aren't as big. I mean, you got Luxembourg versus Cyprus. You got, Luxembourg winning 2-0, getting both those goals from Daniel Sinani in the 12th minute and 26th minute. And this game, it was a pretty even game. I mean, Luxembourg only had 45% possession, had 12 shots, 4 on target, while Cyprus had 13 shots, 3 on target. So Cyprus certainly had their opportunities in this game. They just really didn't take advantage of them, and that's really, like I've said before, that's the name of this game. When you have those opportunities, you need to take advantage of them. If you don't, it's going to hurt you, and it certainly did for them. And with that, let me see where they are. Cyprus have now lost all 3 games in this group. Not a great start for them, and it looks like they're probably going to be looking at an exit here, because, I mean, they have not fared well against either team in this group. They haven't scored a single goal. That is not good at all. And Luxembourg are now 3. They needed this win, because what I'm about to talk now, Montenegro got a win over Azerbaijan. Still looking as dominant as ever. They have not been scored on in this group. They got 2 goals, one from Stefan Jovetic and Igor Ivanovic, and they were playing really well. I mean, they didn't have as much possession, but they took advantage of those shots. They had 9 shots, 6 on target, while Azerbaijan had 7 shots, 0 on target. So Montenegro certainly have looked like the better team in this group and have continued that trend in that game. Next, we have Gibraltar going up against Liechtenstein in League D. And this is the group that has only 3 teams. So this was the chance for Liechtenstein to really capitalize on here and make it into the next great take the top spot, because these 2 teams had both beaten San Marino in the first 2 matches, and whoever won here would have a big time chance in making it past League D. And Gibraltar took advantage of it. They got the goal from De Bar early on in this game, but again, the team who did not have the most possession won again. That seems to be a trend here. They only had 32% possession, had half as many shots as Liechtenstein, but it did not matter. The defense was able to hold on, have still yet to allow a goal in this group, and they're in a really good position to win this group. Next, we had the other group in League D with Faroe Islands drawing against Latvia, and I honestly expected Faroe Islands to just blow away with this, but still, they're in a very comfortable position because they have yet to lose, and none of the other teams in this group have yet to win. So they have right now a 4-point cushion over Latvia, and this was the game for Latvia to really make this a big time, group, to be able to get within. If they would have won, they'd be at 5, and they would actually have been in the lead in this group. So really a missed opportunity here, especially after they got the lead early in this game, but then Faroe Islands just got it right back within 3 minutes. So Latvia, missed opportunity here, man. Now they're 4 points behind Faroe Islands with just 3 more games to go. So they definitely need to take advantage of the games they have against Malta and Andorra. And we're going to talk about that game. That's going to be the last one we talk about, about the games that happened yesterday. And that was a goalless draw. And this was one of the worst games you can see because, Andorra had 9 shots. Malta had 8. But combined, the teams had only 1 shot on target. Yes. This was really, really bad game to watch. Malta had 1 shot on target, and they were the better team. They had 73% possession, had completed 80% of their 483 passes, and this was one of the worst passing games I've seen from any team that's so far that I've covered. They completed less than 50% of their passes. They literally couldn't get anything going. They're lucky to have even gotten drawn this game, and for Andorra. And that's it. It's no surprise that they're now at the bottom of this group. But honestly, in the end, Malta needed to get this win here. They needed to get these 3 points to really make a statement here and really have a chance at the top of this group. And now I just feel like there's just no way, because to not be able to beat Andorra after they had such a terrible game, I don't know what to say about that. So now let's quickly talk about the top games going on today. Just preview them real quick. We have England versus Belgium. Belgium has 6 points entering this match and have scored 7 goals in their first 2 matches. Looking extremely strong and well deserved of that number 1 spot in the FIFA rankings. And then you have England, who has 4 points entering this match, but they only scored 1 goal in their first 2 matches. So they certainly need to shore up that offensive, just that attack. They need to shore that up because it is an absolute mess. And defensively, they look good. They haven't allowed a goal, but they just need to be better. And it's not going to be enough to just try to get a clean sheet against Belgium. It's just not going to happen. So I certainly see Belgium coming through with the victory here and just running away with this group. And next we have France versus Portugal. This is going to be the game for tomorrow. This is the game right here because both of these teams have 6 points entering this match. However, even though France is technically considered the better team because they just came off a World Cup win and are ranked higher, Portugal looked more dominant in the first 2 games of this competition. So this is going to be a very exciting match, and it's going to be close. I actually see it coming down to a draw and a really high-scoring one. I see this going 3-3. So definitely watch that one. This is going to be a really exciting match to watch today. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around because when I come back, we're going to be talking about the top 10 fullbacks of all time.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back, everyone. If you missed the last segment, I talked about the international football scene with the UEFA Nations League. Of course, we talked about the games that happened yesterday and, previewed a few of the games that are going to be going on today. But now, we're going to be talking about the most exciting segment of today, talking about the top 10 fullbacks of all time. Now, when we talk about fullbacks, this is easily the position that has transformed the most, since the start of football. Because at the start, it was just mainly seen as a defensive position, one that, was the least interesting one, the one that nobody really wanted to play. Now it's obviously, super exciting. You have some of the more, flashiest players at that position today, and it's certainly changed. But man, we have some unbelievable players on this list today. The accomplishments that they've put together is just otherworldly, and I'm just excited to talk about these guys. And before I do, I want to talk about, well, first let me get to number 10, and then I'm going to talk about a couple of guys that I was considering for this spot. So at number 10, I have Lilian Thuram, the French fullback. Now, a couple of the guys that I had considered for this spot were Carlos Alberto, Giancinto Facchetti, Rui Krul, and Nilton Santos. Like, those are some of the top players of all time, but I just I couldn't fit them on this list. I mean, and Thuram, his spot on this list is certainly deserved. I mean, he's a Juventus legend. I mean, he had 142 caps for France. Was a defensive anchor, really. I mean, he is the epitome of a defender at that fullback spot. Even though he certainly had the skill to help his team win at any level. Won 3 Serie A titles. He won the World Cup in 1998, and even won the bronze ball in that tournament, being the third best player. He won the French Player of the Year in 1997, made it to the FIFA FIFPro World 11 in 2006. Of course, with France, also won a UEFA European Championship, a FIFA Confederation Cup. In Ligue 1, won the Coupe de France. In Serie A, won the Coppa Italia and the Supercoppa Italiana. I mean, and he made it to 2 FIFA World Cup All-Star teams. So, I mean, this guy, wherever he went, whenever he, went there, was a winner and certainly deserves to be on this list. I mean, I had to put him in here. I just had to. He just rarely made mistakes when it mattered most and just wasn't afraid to make those saves in the box. He was that anchor for those teams. You have him back there, you're feeling so comfortable. Next, at number 9, we have Djamila Santos, the Brazilian fullback who pretty much made the fullback position appealing, because back then that was the position that you kind of put someone that you weren't expecting to be, that good. It was just, you get the ball, you make the right play to the guys up ahead, and that's it. He was the first player ever to be selected in the team of the tournament of 3 World Cups. Only 2 other players have done that since. Huge accomplishment. And he won 2 FIFA World Cups with Brazil. I mean, he was an immaculate defender with his combination of strength, durability, and resolution. He was, extremely efficient in the ground and in the air. And when it comes to offense, he usually preferred to play the simple pass to those legendary teammates that he played with. But he certainly had the skill to make incredible runs. And he was also a master at the dead ball situations, and was always composed in any situation he encountered, literally never being sent off in more than 1,000 games as a professional. That's an unbelievable stat. I couldn't believe it when I saw that, because that's like a natural thing now. At least eventually a player is going to be sent off because someone's going to get under his skin, and it just happens. But not for Santos. So, unbelievable career, and he absolutely deserves to be the number 9 best fullback of all time. Number 8, we have the English fullback, Ashley Cole. I feel like Ashley Cole is one of the more underrated and underappreciated players of all time. He's never been a flashy player. Always seemed to be in the right spot at the right time. Made defending in the best league in the world look relatively simple, honestly. And was just always composed in any situation he found himself in. He was an excellent passer, able to pick out his teammates consistently, and in the perfect position to score. And his crosses were one of the most feared, skills in football at the time. Of course, now you see that on a regular basis, but he was the one that pretty much started that. Now, his ball skills were also something to watch. He always got himself out of tough situations with some nasty moves. When I was watching his highlights, it was kind of incredible how he just, there was one where he had the ball and he did something so simple. He just pulled the ball back and kind of just went in the opposite direction, but it just looked like he was going in the previous direction so much that 2 defenders literally flew by him, and they got beat so bad that they literally didn't stop. They were just like, you know what, I'm just going to keep on running, and that was an absolute mess. Actually, a huge time player. Now, and his achievements are huge as well. He won 3 Premier League titles. He won 7 FA Cups, 3 FA Community Shields, and he even won the Champions League in 2011-2012 with Chelsea. And he made 2 UEFA Team of the Years. And he was the England Player of the Year in 2010. Huge time player, Ashley Cole, and for sure deserves to be number 8 on this list. Next, at number 7, honestly, I feel like he might be a little low, but Javier Zanetti, the Argentine fullback. This man was the epitome of a winner and leader, was an Inter Milan legend. He played 19 years, 15 of those as captain, and he recorded a record 858 appearances for Inter and 143 caps for Argentina. He played the game extremely simple, but by no means was he average. He was probably the most technically gifted player on this list. And he always made the right play, never let any situation get to him. He used his body so well. That was one of the things that popped out to me the most when I was watching his highlights. Whenever it looked like there was a player that was going to get the ball away from him, he used his body in such a perfect way that it just took the defender out of the situation. Like he had no chance, and he was always in control. Zanetti was not the most athletic, but he was literally one of the smartest players to touch a football pitch. He won 5 Serie A titles. He won the 2010 Champions League title. Won 4 Coppa Italias and 4 Supercoppa Italianas. A huge time winner and just one of the best fullbacks of all time, no doubt about it. Now, at number 6, I feel like you might be able to switch these two, but I feel like Marcelo certainly deserves to be here. I mean, one of the all-time winners ever, and I just feel like Marcelo, I mean, for me, this is the first guy that I've actually been able to watch. And a funny story about Marcelo, when I was working at a mall here in Miami for so long, actually for the Miami Heat, and I was just there. It was one of those random shifts in the morning. I was the supervisor, so it was just me in the store. And little do I know, it was during the summer, so it was when soccer teams were coming to Miami to play at like the Miami Dolphins Stadium. And Marcelo walked into my store. I was like, wait, what? Marcelo? Like, you're Marcelo, right? Because this is when I was still, just becoming a fan. But, I mean, I was not going to not know who Marcelo was. I mean, this guy was a legend, one of the best players in the world at the time. And, he was obviously didn't want people to know who he was. But, I mean, it was just an unbelievable moment for me to actually see Marcelo in person. But yeah, man, he's been one of the best fullbacks in the world for so long. Of course, now he's kind of like lost his form since Ronaldo left. He just has not been the same. But that combination that he had with Cristiano Ronaldo was among the best 1-2 punches the world of soccer has ever seen. You're gonna see a better one later on this list. But I mean, his knack for goals was ridiculous. What really set him apart, though, was his incredible dribbling skills. It just always felt like he had the upper hand whenever he was making an attack, because it just always felt like he was going to find the right hole, just to get through the defense and just make a big time play. This guy is one of the flashiest players on this list, and he's had an incredible career. He still has time to turn it around, but unfortunately, it just feels like Marcelo's best soccer is behind him. Some of the achievements he's accomplished throughout his career: he's a 5-time La Liga title winner, 4-time Champions League winner, 3-time UEFA Super Cups, 6-time FIFA 5 Pro World 11, 2-time UEFA Team of the Year. I mean, this guy has done it all. And certainly deserves to be on a top 10 list. You might put him lower on your list, but for me, he's number 6. Next at number 5, we have the Magic Dwarf, Philipp Lahm. I mean, this man is easily the most versatile player on this list. Can play any position in the backline, and of course, as you can probably tell by his nickname, the Magic Dwarf, he was extremely small. He was just 5'7". He's shorter than I am. But he was an excellent leader for Bayern in Germany, as he captained both to a lot of success. He made 113 appearances for Germany, 5th all-time, ranked 3rd all-time with 249 Bundesliga victories. He's one of the smartest players, probably the smartest player on this list, as he would rarely be caught out of position on defense and always seemed to be in the right spots on offense. And one of the things he mastered was the art of the slide tackle, which is really incredible considering his height. His accomplishments speak for himself. I mean, 8-time Bundesliga titles, 8-time Bundesliga champion, which is a record, 6-time DFB Pokal winner. He won the Champions League in 2012-2013. He won the World Cup in 2014. He made the World Cup All-Star team in 2006. Is a 5-time UEFA Team of the Year winner, whatever, you know what I mean. 2-time FIFA 5 Pro World 11. And he was the German Male Footballer of the Year in 2017. Just an absolutely ridiculous career for Philipp Lahm, and certainly deserves to be a top 5 fullback of all time. Next, we got Cafu of Brazil. One of the most complete fullbacks of all time. His runs down the right flank are absolutely legendary and a staple for Brazil. His ability to cross the ball was unmatched in his time, and his ability to score was just as ridiculous. Of course, I'm not saying I watched him, because again, you guys know I haven't been a soccer fan for a long time. However, when I saw, from what I read and all the highlights that I saw, this man was a master. I mean, he was extremely calm under pressure and never allowed a player to go under his skin. One of the videos I was actually watching of him was between him and Cristiano Ronaldo when he was in Manchester United, when Ronaldo pushed him because I guess, he didn't like him and Cafu bumped into each other and he didn't like it, so he pushed Cafu, and all he did was stand there and laugh at Ronaldo. And that's Cafu in a nutshell. He'll make you look silly and laugh while doing it. And it's insane to me to consider that he played alongside Paulo Maldini and Alessandro Nesta for 5 years at AC Milan. Bro, I mean, I remember when I was really first starting, AC Milan were already kind of like falling apart, really. But I was always told from the guys that I would talk soccer with that AC Milan were one of the best teams around. And now I can see why. I mean, to have those three players in your back line is just ridiculous. And when you look at his achievements, it speaks for himself. He was the South American Footballer of the Year in 1994. He won the Serie A title twice, one with Roma and one with AC Milan. He won the 2006-2007 Champions League with AC Milan, two-time UEFA Super Cup winner, two-time FIFA World Cup champion. I mean, come on. Two-time Copa America champion. He won the FIFA Confederations Cup once. And he made the UEFA Team of the Year twice and the FIFA 5 Pro World 11 once. I mean, this guy just did it all throughout his entire career and certainly deserves to be number 4 on this list. Now we're getting into the top 3, and this is, these are some legendary names that I'm about to be going off here. Number 3, we have Roberto Carlos. This man had an illustrious career with top club Real Madrid. And the one thing that comes to my mind when I talk about Roberto Carlos is that ridiculous rocket of a free kick that he shot for Brazil. That just it took a ridiculous curve. That's one of the first highlights that I've ever seen. Because when I was first getting into soccer, a lot of my, soccer friends were like, yo, look at this video. Look at this guy. Like, this is the guy. Just how I would be if someone that I knew was just getting into basketball, I'd be like, bro, look at these, Allen Iverson crossovers. That's kind of what this was for me. That Roberto Carlos free kick was just absolutely ridiculous. But that was really all I knew about him. But the thing is that he's got so much more than that. His ridiculous combination of pace and ball skills made him one of the best fullbacks ever. He was an amazing passer as well and could make nearly any pass you needed. Plus his link-up play during those Real Madrid times were something to watch. I mean, along with Zidane, he was just an absolute monster. And, of course, Ronaldo. And, of course, let's not forget the kind of bulldog he was on the defensive end. I mean, the type of slides that I saw him make, and just him running into players, he just did not give, he just did not care. He really did not. And then you add that incredible ability to score free kicks, and he certainly deserves to be considered a top 3 fullback of all time. And then you look at those achievements. 4-time La Liga champion, 3-time Champions League winner. He won the World Cup in 2002, 2 Copa Americas, the FIFA Confederations Cup, 2 FIFA World Cup All-Star teams, 2 UEFA Team of the Years. He was a runner-up for the Ballon d'Or in 2002, and he was a UEFA Club Defender of the Year twice. I mean, come on. A legend of the game. Certainly deserves to be number 3 on this list. Now, next. This guy I have known for sure the most out of my time being a fan, and that is Dani Alves. He's at number 2, Dani Alves. I mean, I didn't really think about it at first. Obviously, when I'm just watching him play, I don't know about all the players of all time when I'm just watching him play. And I'm like, I didn't know I was watching the second best fullback of all time. I mean, easily the most decorated player in soccer history. So, I mean, just off the bat, when you look at that, that's incredible. He became a staple at right back for Barcelona for 8+ years. And since his departure, they have not found an answer at that position. It just goes to show how amazing he was. And of course, Barca fans will never forget that beautiful chemistry he had with Leonel Messi along that right flank. It just felt like they just knew where the other was at any point on the pitch. And he assisted the Argentinian, 26 times. I mean, that bulldog mentality of Dani Alves that he had, along with that incredible flair, was something that many hadn't seen for a long time. And honestly, at the rate that he was doing it, at the consistency that he's done it, probably ever. He was extremely creative, and let me just go off with some of these achievements that he's got. I mean, 6-time La Liga title winner, 5-time Copa del Rey, 1 with Sevilla, 4 with Barcelona, 3 Champions League titles, 1 Serie A title, 2 Ligue 1 titles, 2 Copa Americas, 2 FIFA Confederation Cups, 8 FIFA 5 Pro World 11s, 5 UEFA Team of the Year awards. I mean, and the list goes on and on. Obviously, haven't named all of them because that is not 43 trophies. That is the record. He's got 43 trophies. He also has the most UEFA Super Cup titles with 4, tied with someone coming up real soon on this list. And I mean, just a ridiculous career for Dani Alves. 100% the second best fullback in the world. And now we have made it to number 1. Paulo Maldini. Now, if some of you guys saw my last episode with the center backs, I kind of don't feel like I kind of gave them justice. I didn't talk about them as much as I'm talking about the fullbacks. I don't feel like I did the research as good as I could have. But Paulo Maldini could have easily been considered a center back. And if he was, possibly top 3, because this is not your traditional attacking fullback. He was far more defensive than any other player on this list. I mean, like I said, he even played a lot of center back throughout his career and could have easily made the top 3 of that list. But I mean, this man is a legend of the game. It feels like he never made a mistake throughout his career. Was an absolute legend. And just listen to these achievements. 7-time Serie A title winner, 3-time Champions League winner, and was the man of the match in his 2003 win. 4 UEFA Super Cups, 1-time Coppa Italia winner. He made the FIFA 5 Pro World 11 in 2005, 2-time FIFA World Cup All-Star Team, 2-time UEFA Team of the Year, made the Ballon d'Or, 3rd place twice in 94 and 2003. And listen to some of these records that he has. He has the most World Cup appearances for Italy with 23. He's made the most appearances in all competitions for AC Milan with 902. And this is the craziest one of them all. He is tied for the most UEFA Champions League finals played with 8. I mean, this man was a winner. I mean, of course, he was 3 for 5 in the Champions League final, but to even make it there 8 times is just ridiculous. I mean, that's legendary stuff from Paulo Maldini, and 100% deserves to be number 1 on this list. So that's going to wrap it up for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. I feel like I came up with that top 10 list way better than the last episode, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I mean, I'm excited to keep on bringing this out to you guys, and I'm super excited for these international matches coming up today. So that's going to wrap it up, and as always, thank you for listening to the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you and have a great night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.